Welcome to Blamestorming. Blamestorming. In a post-truth world, there's plenty of blame to go around. 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 Join Dave Cyrus and Marissa Smith as they blamestorm about today's hot topics.
Hey guys, this is Blamestorm, and I'm your host, Dave Cyrus, also with your other host, Marissa Smith.
Hey guys.
Our guest today is JP McDade.
Hello.
Dan Wicks is in the bathroom taking off the shorts and underwear I gave him to put on. Oh, sorry, shorts and tank top.
You gave him underwear too?
No, tank tops kind of count as underwear.
Okay.
Wear it under your clothes.
Depends on what state you're in, but yeah.
As a child, I think they counted as underwear. You know, back when everyone was like expected to wear like a whole thing, you had to wear like a tank top and shorts. Women were expected to wear a slip.
But it's business casual in some way, in some places.
Look, all I know is the hotter it
Tank top.
is, the less clothing I'm going to wear. I need to be comfortable to be this hilarious. Anyway, and our other guest, Dan Wicks, actually has to get going. He's got to head out to Comedy Fight Club. Dan, if you'd like to say goodbye to the people, if you have something you wanted to plug real quick, you could feel free to do so. Or just, say hi.
Plug.
Hey guys, that's all from me. Thank you. It's a lot of fun being here. I guess follow me on Twitter at Dan Wicks. So I got some roasts up on YouTube if you want to check them out. And that's all. Thank you.
Could you say that again just a little bit, just draw it out
Just make it a little bit more like an answering machine message.
We have an hour to fill.
All right.
Just in case, since this is on radio, just know that Dan is a very funny guy. He happens to look like a bunny and a guy who's no longer allowed to buy bunnies.
Yeah, that's me.
And, great guy. Very, very, very funny.
Dave
Thank you
here,
for
yeah.
giving me my clothing back. I brought Dan, as you can see, clothing to make him more comfortable. And, frankly, make me more comfortable to be next to him. Anyway, Dan, you can keep sitting here if you like.
Yeah.
Feel free to hang out more if you want. But, so we were just talking about, Omarosa.
Right.
And what a terrible human being she is. But that's okay. Sometimes you need to fight fire with assholes.
I'm just curious as to what she's gonna drop next, because it seems like any time he tweets about her, she drops something, and I don't know. He just seems to be not to be punny, but more unhinged about her than normal.
Well, yeah, he's worried because she is just like him. It's kind of the same reason that he fired Scaramucci after 48 hours. It's like he can't be around people who are too much like himself, or they'll eat each other's faces off. They're like chimps.
Yeah, but she's been around him for 15 years being like him.
Yeah, but she was always his lapdog. He even said the only reason he hired her is because she said nice things about him, which shouldn't be something you'd be willing to admit. You should know that that's a horrible reason to admit you hired someone.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like that is even more reason why I feel like she's potentially working with the government, because he's that narcissistic that it's so easy to manipulate him that anybody could actually be positioned next to him just by stroking his ego.
I don't know. I just don't buy into...
Who was the other person who recorded him recently? Was it Cohen who released a tape or something of him?
Right.
Yeah, Cohen.
Yeah.
Michael Cohen,
is he kind of working in the investigation in some
Michael
way?
Cohen,
He was,
well, Michael Cohen,
former counsel, but
Yeah.
he was
He's
flipped because he was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Because what Trump does, it's classic mafia tactics. It seems to be that Trump was using his lawyer's client privilege to then commit crimes, to have him do things that then would not
Right.
would get rid of the privilege, and then he could say, well, you're not allowed to know what crimes you committed together because that's attorney-client privilege.
Well, that would lead me to believe that Omarosa, while she, let's say, even if she's not directly working with the investigation or something, in an official capacity, I think she senses that, this guy's going down, and we can dogpile on top of him. There are opportunities.
Well, she
where
desperately
get
wants
information on him.
Yeah, she desperately wants to be famous.
Well, she's already said that she's...
Well, now she's working with Mueller.
Yeah, she's working with Mueller now.
Because she has, pertinent information.
Yeah.
And the really funny thing, what we really haven't really learned is what exactly is she doing this for? Is it just because she was fired? Because we still haven't even learned what she was fired for, have we? She claims that she was not fired for trying to force her way onto the White House grounds for her wedding photos, which is what the White House said she was fired for, right?
I think that means the
No.
official, the true story is that like she was fired for like interrupting the president during one of his viewings of like some awful military drama on CBS. Like
Yeah,
he was trying to watch
He was
like
watching Jag.
Navy cops rape
Yeah.
division or something, and she disturbed him.
Well,
Yeah.
according to the Kelly tape, he was saying that she was fired for an integrity violation.
Right, we
And
never
so,
found out
but
what
we
that
don't
was.
know what that is, which I think might be the like, you know, if I were to kind of like.
What do you have to do to get fired from the Trump White House that in terms
I
that
mean-
has to do with integrity?
Right, but I think probably Kelly found out that she was recording.
Oh, if he found out she was recording, she would not have been able to record that conversation. They would never, if they knew she was recording people, they would have stopped her from bringing.
But
the
I
recording
think that's
device
the
into
reason
situation room.
why. Well, that's the reason why I think they brought her into the Situation Room, was thinking that she would not be able to make a recording in the Situation Room, and they also kept her personal effects. So, like, they took her cell phone. They probably assumed that she was doing all the recording on her cell phone.
Well, they took everyone's cell phone,
But,
before they went to
like-
the Situation Room. She was bugging herself.
She was just wearing
Right.
a statement bow tie, and no
Yeah.
one thought
Yeah.
twice.
You know, but like
She was-
I think that the reason
wearing
why
some
they
blinking
brought
jewelry.
her specifically into the Situation Room was because they thought that she was recording.
I don't think that it would make sense if she was still
Well,
recording.
if-
they
if-
thought she was recording, if they knew she was recording, then they would
Then what's
know,
the
and they
integrity
would
violation?
make- we don't know. That's
That's
the
why
point.
I
We
think
don't
the
know what it
integrity
is.
violation-
Yeah, what's the definition of an integrity violation in the Trump administration?
Exactly.
Right.
What is
Not
it
being
like?
loyal, which would be
It means
recording.
forgetting to lie about the right thing.
Yeah.
It's like acknowledging how many Big Macs he had that day, or
But like according to her book, because
Referring to him as 6'2".
she was saying that they didn't like the fact that she was trying to hunt down the N-word tape, and that she was like reaching out to former people from The Apprentice and like producers and showrunners trying to get the tape, and she wanted to hear for herself if it existed, and she's trying to say that is a real reason why she thinks she was fired. They originally said that she was using the car service improperly, but then was like
yeah. Meanwhile, Scott Pruitt was chartering planes to take him. Everyone in that White House was grifting it like they knew they were going to be gone in 30 days.
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, the idea that she was misusing her. Everyone misuses their car privileges. At SNL, I would lie my ass. I would just pretend I'd been there all day just to get the free car home. It was actually a great situation. I could go to work, and they would give you a free car home if you were there past a certain time for safety issues.
Yeah.
So I would go hang out somewhere, and then be like, and then go back at 9:30, right when that time period started, and be like, oh, I guess I need my free town car home.
Yeah, I live at my parents' place in Ohio.
Yeah.
Just drop me off real quick.
Oh God, I also live the furthest from the office of anyone there, I
Yeah.
think. So I abused that privilege. That might have been why I got fired. I would feel so much better if it turned out.
Well,
I
you were
got
trying to
fired.
hunt down the N-word tapes that were
Lawrence. Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea of her wanting to find those tapes there's something wrong with that, because wouldn't they want to know if it's true? And the problem is they said to Trump, he said, could you think of any situation this might have happened? And he said, no, but find out if I said it, basically. He was like, well,
like,
have you heard him?
I'm going to tweet my
No.
way out of this.
Then I never said it. I mean, he's such a terrified, paranoid child that of course he's going to lie to his own staff about it too, because he assumes everyone is going to turn against him for the simple reason that he's abusive to everyone around him. There's no reason they would be loyal to him.
Right. I don't know. I think she's got something big, and I think that she's saving it. I don't think that we heard like all of like the best tapes yet.
Yeah.
Oh, she goddamn better have something. We haven't the amount we've had to listen to that horrible human being on the news constantly talk about another horrible human being. This had better end with a chapter ending moment. I want to see the actual tape that Don Cheadle said exists. Have you ever heard Don Cheadle's thing?
No, what is that?
Don Cheadle, I think he said a girlfriend of his who was a white woman, her father told him that Trump on a golf course said to him, have you ever had N-word pussy? Except I'm, sanitizing it.
Right.
Now, I don't think anyone thinks that sounds like something he wouldn't say.
Yeah.
But it's like, if he would say that to a stranger on a golf course, this is a man who uses that term all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And also, by the way, the people are trying to, this is what I'm really looking forward to. Everyone in the news, everyone who works for Trump, is right now trying to figure out how they're going to spin it when it comes out. Like, you know that. Like, they're all working it in the mirror. Like, Sean Hannity's going to... You just know Sean Hannity's in the mirror right now being like, so Jay-Z can say it all the time?
Yeah, the
so,
whataboutism is coming.
Yeah.
Oh, so 2 Chainz can say it? But the problem is, a lot of them are being like, look, it's actually celebration of black culture when white kids say it now. The problem is, they're assuming it's a soft R. And it's not. I don't think it's going to be a soft R use.
I think that it's interesting that when they're saying that this tape was recorded was the season that she was on The Apprentice, so he was probably talking about her.
Well, there were other black people there.
There were, like,
from what I
her
recall.
first season, there was just 2.
Well, I had not heard that it was specific to her season because she never heard it. She heard of it. She said she never heard him say it. She just said other people told her there's a tape. And then later said, well, since the book came out, someone played it for me, but I can't tell you who. Which doesn't sound very true. But, you know, she's also a liar who is also saying some things that are true also. So we don't really know. But, I mean, as a black woman, like, I'm honestly asking this. What's the difference to you personally between the different ways you could have said this word?
Nothing.
See, that shocks me a little bit.
Well, I don't use the word.
No, I know that, but I'm saying, like, I guess I'm surprised because, I mean, I'm deferring to you on this, that, like...
Well, I can't speak for all black people, Dave.
Well, no, but you're the one here.
Yeah.
And on the show, it's your show, too. So I'm honestly asking, like, should we... that's what I'm saying. Like, should we make a difference between him doing, like, a lame old guy form of racism of using it like he's trying to sound like a rapper in the way he would do it, as opposed to the full-on hard R, get them out of my office?
Well, it's gonna be bad either way, and I feel like we're not gonna hear the tape. And it's like, guys, Chris Rock has this new bit about the use of the N-word. You got to hear it. It goes like this, and then just recites the whole thing. It's gonna be pretty ugly.
See,
no
that would be very disappointing if it was just him quoting like a joke by a black comic or a rap lyric.
Well, Chappelle put out For What It's Worth in 2005. Maybe he's just, I don't know, maybe he's...
my...
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a hard R, but, like, I don't think it matters. Like, I personally don't use...
him or for anyone?
So, for me, I don't use the word at all. I don't use a soft, and I don't use a hard R. But you know, like, if I'm like doing it in a joke, it's basically like so I was kind of like, last night I did a joke about this last tweet that Trump did about Omarosa and how like, what was the original tweet that got him to low life dog. And so you know that it was just like, can you believe this fucking nigger bitch betrayed me? And then it's like, no, sir, you can't say the N-word. Well, if they, you know, like, if they said I said it, I'm going to say it before they can play the tape. So, you know, like, well, I said it in front of everybody, so you can't have this tape over me now. It's like, no, sir, you can't say it. Well, how about just this black bitch? No, you can't call her a bitch, sir. Well, if I call her a dog, they'll know that means bitch, right? And all the blacks are lowlifes. So you know.
Also, I want to make sure nobody thinks I ever tried to bang her, so I'm gonna call her ugly.
Yeah.
Because I would lose a lot of. He would. That's actually the funniest thing. What would cost Donald Trump more votes if the N-word tape came out or a sex tape with Omarosa? What would cost him more of his fans?
I don't think either of those things are going to cost him fans.
I'm sorry. I thought that was a no-brainer. I thought he would lose a lot more people if he had sex with a black woman.
Yeah, but a lot of, like, you know...
Racists, that's true. Yeah, a lot of racists think it's okay to use black people's bodies, I guess. That's true.
Well, it all comes down to what they're going to report on Fox News. Which is probably something completely unrelated.
It's like, well, you can't say Trump's a racist. Look, he's having sex with a black woman.
Yeah. Do you think maybe right now he's telling every single one of his surrogates to start casually dropping N-words in interviews just to try to change society? Just change society to the point that it's no longer a scandal. I mean, he's such a panicked child. We have no idea what horrible ideas he thinks are going to get him out of this.
Yeah, I probably going to bomb somebody. But I don't know. Like, I think there's no difference between the two.
See, that, I guess I'm surprised by that just because I feel like there are so many kids out there who, while I don't want them saying it, I see a big difference between all like white kids. It's amazing how flagrantly they use a soft R now.
Well, like even
right?
Asian kids say. I feel like everybody says it,
Yeah.
and like that's like why I like in conversation I don't say it. If it's a joke, I'll say it, but like conversationally to people, I don't say it at all. But like I don't know. I know I'm not the norm, but I also don't like the term black girl magic. I don't say that ever either. And it's kind of like, I think first
That's
of all,
just a corny term, I guess.
Well,
That's okay.
It's the title of my album. But
it's,
okay.
yeah, but like for me, it really is that I don't like the trope of the magical black person. And of course, if a black woman is successful, it's magic that happened. It's not like, being determined or hardworking or
Well, that's the
persevering.
magic.
Like
You're magically determined, isn't that?
it's like, so like I personally don't use those terms just because I think they feed into tropes that I don't believe in.
No, that's fine. I guess what I was getting at was, it's like, I don't think that every white kid who says that, like, it's dumb and it's ignorant, but I don't think that, like, they hate black people when they try to act like them, when they try to emulate them. It's something that, when my little brother does it, I would be like, hey, don't ever say that again. And he's like, oh, my friends do. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, it doesn't matter. Whereas, like, if you hear someone, like, yelling the original use of the word, that's, like, the kind of thing that, like, that's, like, a shocking amount of, like, just being a horrible person.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no reason for... there's no reason for them to say even the soft version. It's just they want to say it because they feel like that gives them an out, and they can be like, well, I didn't. It's like they're driving through a yellow light that just turns red as they.
Oh wait, so you think that when white kids say it is because they hate black people? I thought it was because they're just like trying to be because they just think they're cool and they don't understand that they're appropriating. I didn't think they were actually doing it out of hatred. I think they don't understand why it's offensive, and they think it's cool. Because they're rappers and comedians say, and they want to be like them, and they just don't understand that that's inappropriate for a white person to do because of the history behind it.
But how is it in 2018 you don't know it's inappropriate for a white person to say that word?
Because all of them do it. Because all these white kids say the word
because
all the time.
Because they don't care that it's inappropriate.
With their black friends. Well, because they think it makes them cool. They think it makes them brave to say it, and they think that
they're entitled to it.
Well, they think that the worst thing is they think that it's a term of endearment that they can use also, and they're not supposed to use that. But they seem to think that they're doing this because they love certain black entertainers, and that they see them do it, and they think that makes it okay. And it doesn't make it okay, but I don't think they hate those people. I think they just want to be black.
I think for every one of those kids, there's like 5 or 6 more white kids across the country who are like using it in a more hateful way.
Yeah.
Oh, of course they are.
Yeah.
Of course they are. But what I'm saying is, when white kids who are clearly just trying to act black do it, it's not something we should let them do. We should let them know you shouldn't do that. But I don't think they're doing it out of hatred. I think they're doing it out of jealousy. They want to be black because they want to be cool like their heroes. Like I said, it's not an excuse, but
yeah, but
I don't think
they might want to be black until
attack.
like the cops are trying to shoot them.
Well, of course, but that doesn't mean they hate black people.
I think that you're using. I think hate is too simplistic of a word to use because this is a very nuanced situation, and I think that it's missing the idea that that there is a lack of empathy or sympathy and just a pure entitlement to think that you can use a word that historically is a hateful word, and because you think that you're not racist, that you can say that word because you bought an album. And so I think that to say, well, these kids hate black people is just simplifying it too much.
But that's what I mean.
But
when you say it with a hard R, it is impossible to argue that's not out of hate. That is a hateful thing to say. That means you're saying it because you hate these people when you say it that way. But when you say it, when I see these dumb kids who are just saying rap lyrics and calling each other that because they're so desperate to act like, like black.
Yeah, but I
entertainers they
think
wanna be
that's
like,
just saying because
that's
you're
just
not
ignorance,
using
it seems.
an R doesn't necessarily imply hatred. Doesn't. I think that you're trying to make a situation black and white that's not.
Well, I'm just saying one is worse. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying I think one, while they're both bad, one is significantly more. The impetus why they're doing it is what's so much worse about it. When you're actually doing it for the original use of the term, like the hatefulness behind that, as opposed to just dumb kids who just should know better but don't.
Yeah, but being on the end of it, like if a white person is saying that word to a black person in a hateful manner or in a derogatory manner, whether they use the R or not use the R, in that particular moment, it doesn't matter. Like that's not
what I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about whether they're using it in the hard R way as an attack on a black person, or they're using it in the soft R way as a calling each other that because that's the culture that they don't realize they don't have a right to emulate.
Right, but I'm still saying that you can use a soft R and it still be hateful.
Right, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to that use of it.
You're doing it more as like a greeting or whatever.
Yeah, which we see. I mean, when I live in Brooklyn, I hear that word so much in the street, like walking around. I don't even have to look to see that it's a white kid, because like they all think it's okay because it's so common. And in fact, when years ago when they said everyone stop using it, it blew up more because now it was edgy to use it. Now everyone thinks it's so cool. And the thing is, a lot of these kids, they're just too dumb and stupid to understand why it's wrong for you to use it even when you mean it positively. Even when you mean it the same way your black friends use it to each other. Even when your black friends use it to you, that doesn't give you a pass. And I know white kids who say it because they grew up with black kids. And they say, I'm just talking the way everyone else in my neighborhood talked. And it's like, even though I didn't grow up in your neighborhood, you don't get the background to this. And you don't get why this is offensive. But I would not say that what that kid is doing is the same as a Klansman.
Why do you think so many like male white comics like to try to use it on stage?
Well, that I think is a separate thing of the edgelord problem of male comics just wanting to say edgy stuff and shock people, and everyone wants to be Bill Hicks, and they think that that's what being Bill Hicks is in 2018. I mean, JP, you've said the N-word on stage. How? What were you thinking?
For the record, not true. But
all right, fake news.
I don't know how many white dudes I've seen. Well, I don't know.
It happens.
Like Neil Brennan had a bit on his special that I saw him do at the Cellar that was like about this very subject, like who gets a pass, who can say it, and stuff like that.
Right, and Neil Brennan, that's an interesting thing because of all white people I can think of, Neil Brennan is probably, if he thought such a thing as a pass existed, you would think he's someone who probably thought he had a pass. But not that was his bit, because, of course, he worked with Dave Chappelle. He worked in Chappelle Show all those years. He probably hears it a lot. But I know Neil Brennan. I'm assuming he's smart enough to know the difference.
I think if there's like a white comic using that word on stage, they're like, it probably has something to do with the temptation to be like, have like a back of the classroom type of edge and just say the thing that you're not supposed to say.
Right. It's because they're misunderstanding.
That's not giving a pass to anybody, because like there could be plenty of like shithead comics out there who have like, who are closet alt-right people or whatever, and they,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when comics say it, it's because comics are all mentally ill and are just obsessed with saying anything. That anytime you're told not to say something, they're like, well, I'm special, and I'm going to come up with a way of saying it.
Sometimes it just doesn't occur to people like, oh, yeah, that means you too. Like, you shouldn't. Just don't say it.
Right.
You're going to make everyone uncomfortable.
And the funny thing is every comic has a line. Every comic has their own line about what's over the line and what's freedom of speech. And because almost every comic I know is liberal, I don't know any comics, white comics, who would say that word on stage that I'm friends with. But like every one of those comics, like almost none of them will say, will say bitch on stage anymore, or they won't use the F word for gay people. Certainly won't now anymore use the T word for trans people, but they all say midget. None of them are willing to stop saying midget. It is an amazing thing, and I apologize for saying that because I don't use it in the normal sense unless I'm talking about the word like just now.
Right.
I'll say dwarf. I think little person is too confusing, but dwarf is considered fine.
I always say little person.
Little person's fine too. I think if to elucidate exactly what you mean, you might want to say dwarfism, but good God, comics, the most liberal comics I've ever seen will still die for the use of the word midget.
I think everyone knows what a little person is.
I mean, mostly. But the problem is, I think if you're that separated, you might think it's just anyone short, and it's like, no, you mean someone specifically with this group of congenital disorders that cause dwarfism. But dwarf isn't considered offensive, like the M word is.
I don't know. I thought I thought that was offensive also.
No, I never heard dwarf being. I personally, I've never heard. I've heard people say you're supposed to say dwarf, not midget.
Well, no, I know you can't say the M word, but I thought like that was like the same thing. I thought that the universal was like little person.
I mean, it's little person is considered an appropriate thing to say. I've just also heard that the D word is fine too. That if I'm wrong, sorry. That's what I've always been told.
But language changes so much. Like I didn't know that like you couldn't use like hermaphrodite until recently, and so and that was like mind blowing to me. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know I was saying something bad.
You can use it. You just have to stop screaming it at your boss.
Oh well, you know.
But well, I mean, the
because you're supposed to say intersex now.
Yes. Well, you know, it's also like when speaking of like words people didn't know you couldn't use. Oriental used to be considered offensive to call people because it was a term that also referred to products like rugs and like art and food. But then because it was considered offensive to call people that, it became just overall offensive as a word itself, which I thought was an interesting thing. It was like we almost forgot why the original word was offensive, and then you said, well, you have to stop using it to refer to the rugs too.
Oh, well, I knew you couldn't use it for people, but I didn't know that. So what are you calling the rugs now?
I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed. But I've had people say that term became offensive, sort of as an extension of saying you can't call people that, and then it says or anything, which I never really understood because it's not like every other country doesn't have the same word for the people and the products. It's still Italian leather,
right?
Or English leather,
Turkish coffee.
Yeah, I mean. Everyone, I just think people just didn't like the word anymore, which is fine.
Yeah, I thought the word was
yeah. Nothing wrong with saying you can't use the word anymore. I just remember when it was deemed offensive, there was a time when it was the appropriate term, and then they said, no, now it's Asian.
Well, wouldn't Oriental refer to, like, everything from Middle East to South Asian to East Asian and stuff? So that's like a group of 4 billion
Asian,
people
though.
right now. So,
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's...
What, Asian's even more.
That's true.
Oriental, literally what we did was, by changing the word Oriental to Asian, you added India.
Yeah, but people on that note, but people have said like I think now people have
you should say
kind
East
of rallied
Asian. If
yeah,
you're referring
like
to, yeah,
or South Asian or whatever. Like people because it's like a race and cultures, I guess. If you just like paint it with such a broad brush. So.
Right. I mean, it's a pretty enormous amount of space that we're using one word to describe. When really we just want to when really what people are trying to say is how to identify someone. What is identifiable about someone?
Yeah.
And East Asians, are a race. Essentially.
Don't the rugs like kind of like come from the Middle East though? I don't think that you get like one of those rugs from like China. Like I don't think that they produce those rugs. Like there's a particular region I want to say like probably like near like Afghanistan or something like that actually makes those rugs.
Yeah.
See, I don't know that because I would never buy one of those rugs because I would not use that term or spend anywhere near that amount of money.
Well, when you're buying it from there, it's actually relatively cheap.
What do you put in your band's recording studio? I don't understand. You don't have some of those rugs?
Good old American rugs. Shitty American fake fiber rugs that cost nothing that I bought at Santee Alley. It's a place in L.A. You buy really cheap stuff there. But yeah, no. Now that we're what other racist terms do you like? What else What do you enjoy, Marissa? See, I never.
People have been referring to the Irish as bog people recently, and I think that's just good fun.
Well, you're Irish, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, the Irish. No one really has more of a it gets better story of racism than the Irish, do they? They just all you have to do is be indistinguishable from other white people once you lose your accent. That's all you really need to do in this world, everybody. Because that was the thing. Everyone hated Irish people, but then as soon
you
as
just got to be willing to be cops.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as they lost their
We were
accents,
firemen.
Yeah, environment.
I imagine like a lot of Americans must have been really pissed off when the Irish kids stopped having accents and they simply couldn't know.
Oh, we have one less thing to make fun of you about. Good thing you're still alcoholics.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. Once you couldn't tell the difference between an Irish and a German person, it kind of took the sting out of being able to discriminate against them because all you do is fake the accent and you're fine. And
I don't understand what the beef is with the Italians and the Irish, though. Like they usually they live together in the same neighborhoods, but like cannot stand each other. And I don't know, from an outsider looking in, it's just like I don't understand this.
well, there's only so many businesses you can threaten for protection money before you start horning in on each other's on each other's action. Well, I mean, they both. It's very simple. They both came to this country around the same time. They were both being discriminated against. So instead of hating the oppressor, they hated each other. That's essentially what happened, right?
I think the Irish and the Italians have always pretty much gotten along. I don't know.
Outside
Maybe I'm
until they were.
historically I'm wrong, but
Well, I mean,
like
I saw Gangs of New York.
yeah.
But no, the Irish and Italians. There's definitely some.
There's
feuds there.
animosity, yeah, and it, like I come from like Yonkers, and so like there's a lot of like Italian, Irish neighborhoods, and like you can immediately like tell like the tension, and there's like kind of like they're like hurling slurs at each other, and it's just like
Yeah.
And of course, in American history, of course, it was the Irish and the Italians who were discriminated against by the Protestants. They were the ones in power. That when Donald Trump's father marched with the Ku Klux Klan in 1927, it was marching against the Irish and Italian Catholics of Queens, and he was marching, of course, as a German Protestant. That's, of course, in 2 newspapers that he was arrested for being part of a melee between Catholics and the Klan.
right.
And but yeah, that was back when the Klan was so adorable that they went after Irish and Italian people.
Well, now we got to take back all the things we said about the Catholics earlier in this episode.
Yes. Well, that's of course
Totally on the right side of history.
I mean, you guys know where the term "fighting Irish" comes from, right? You ever heard that
From
story?
that?
The "fighting Irish" comes from the fact that the Notre Dame College, which was of course all Catholics, mostly Irish. At the time, this is about maybe 100 years ago, the KKK was extremely powerful. Their base was in Indiana,
yeah.
and which of course that's where Notre
South
Dame
Bend,
is,
yeah.
right? So the Catholic Irish immigrants for decades would tell their kids about the KKK because the KKK at the time was mostly focusing on the Irish, which sounds of course insane now when you think about it. I'm sure there's plenty of Irish Klan members among the other white people in it, but at the time, yeah, they were their big enemy, and so these kids were
Their
raised.
crosses would give us sunburns. Yeah. It was
Yeah,
a real
yeah.
thing.
So these kids were raised and taught about the KKK the way I would imagine a modern black person was taught about the KKK. Like, these are these evil people who will try to kill you. And then the Klan, who were like heroes in Indiana, decided to march at Notre Dame, and it ended up being an all-day riot where all these college students started hunting the Klan and ripping off their clothes as trophies and just beating them up for hours and hours. They ripped down their crosses. They had this light up cross because they wanted to burn a cross, but they weren't allowed to because of zoning regulations. So they got a cross with like Christmas tree lights on it.
Wait, the Klan respected zoning laws?
Well, back at the time, they were in with the government.
Yeah.
They were bribing
Well, they're still
officials.
in with the government.
Yeah.
Well, at least not as much as they used to be, thank God. But yeah, back then.
No, that's so there was actually an investigation that was going on that I think it concluded maybe in 2014 or 15, but they were saying that within part of the reason why like white nationalism is erupting so much is because they are embedded within law enforcement throughout the country, and like both in mainly in like small like municipalities where like the regular local police departments are affiliated with the Klan and various like white supremacy groups and white nationalist groups, and that because they're so rampant across the country, that this is part of the reason why we're seeing such a resurgence of like the alt-right and white supremacy blooming, is because they've infiltrated over the past 20 years small local governments and small local police municipalities.
State reps and
Yeah.
that level and stuff. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, when we're slowly seeing people sort of forgetting about the Holocaust and about World War II and about who the enemy was, because Nazism is becoming a cool thing for isolated losers to get into. And it really sucks because 20 years ago, those people were getting into Toole and Bill Hicks and still voting Democrat if they voted at all. And now it's like they heard people talk about how horrible Nazis are forever. And then they were like, man, I hate my parents. I hate the government. I'm going to be on the side of whoever they hate. Nazis. I mean, it's really weird.
It's crazy. And even to think now that like even people that are really liberal that will ask like, well, can you punch a Nazi? It's like, can you imagine like asking our grandparents if you could punch Nazis? Like,
they would say, what do you mean punch them? You're supposed to shoot them. What are you pussyfooting around for? You get some bullets. They're meant to be killed.
Yeah, it's insane to me that like that's even a conversation. Like, oh well, like should you be able to punch a Nazi? It's like talk to your like grandparents. They'd just be like,
they were mad that the Wolfenstein game had you killing Nazis. And they're like, oh, because apparently in Wolfenstein it's okay to kill people you disagree with, and it's like,
yeah, I don't understand where that's coming from. Like, I did we just lose history class completely in this country?
We've been complaining about our education system sucking for 40 years. This is what happens. Like, that's all this is. For 40 years, we've been like, man, the Chinese are such a better school system, despite having so much less money than us. What do you think that's all about? Why do you think all these Central American countries with no money, all their students still know more about our government than we do? It's like, well, that's where you end up. You end up with the dumbest fucking class of people you ever had, and doing this to everyone, and just inflicting their stupidity on us. And now Donald Trump is this avatar of all the dumb people acting like he's going to reverse the concept of intelligence. He's going to reverse the idea that you have to be smart to do a good job.
Yeah,
he's protection. He's protection against everyone who ever didn't want to be held responsible for their actions.
I mean, it's always shocking to me that like I used to think like George W. Bush was like our dumbest president, and
he was.
Not anymore. Yeah, at the time, and like that was like amazing to me. It's like, oh my god, like how could this guy be our president? And he's so stupid. And now, like every day when I see Trump talking, I'm like, yeah, I guess Bush wasn't so bad. And like that concept to me is like so dumbfounding. Like, I can't believe like I'm saying that.
Bush
frequently.
He was just regular evil.
Yeah.
Like, he was like competent evil. Now it's like
Bush was a bad president the way Stephen Marbury was a bad basketball player. We thought he'd be good, and then he turned out to not be that good, and not just be able and not get along with the team. And he had to move to like, what was it, China?
Yeah, China. And
Where,
now the basketball player is like...
And now it's like now it's like literally me. It's like me on the Knicks.
It's like one of the guys who calls into Mike and the Mad Dog.
Yeah,
it's now taking his place.
If Mad Dog just put shorts on and went out there and just started chucking baskets. Everybody. And be like, what are you talking about? It went in. It went in, Mikey. Yeah, that's the difference. It's like Bush was bad only because it's a job where you have to be so perfect to not look like an idiot, and he just wasn't quite on that level. But he was on so many levels above Trump. But because that's the thing, Trump is Palin, right? Trump is popular, same as Sarah Palin was popular. Every idiot out there who identified with her was like, why does someone better than me need to be president? Why can't the president just be the dumbest person I know? And it's sort of just, it was like an ego stroking thing. It's like, well, if he can be president, I guess I'm doing pretty great.
Yeah, it's like aspirational for idiots.
It's like Trump existed so that everyone could say to their kids, be like, hey, you remember when you called me a racist idiot who didn't understand anything that was going on? Well, I guess I'm presidential. I mean, my dad doesn't like Trump, but I know he doesn't not like him because he's such a similar kind of person. But I mean, I definitely get the impression that he likes him because he doesn't understand why he shouldn't be president. My own dad.
Do you think your dad voted for him, or did he vote for him?
I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. I think he doesn't. I think he knows he can't defend it at all, so he never talks about it. But I think he totally recognizes that, like, that this is something maybe he should be ashamed of, but they're not really capable of shame.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, I mean, that's what Trump does. He says to everyone, like, I'll make the world exactly the one you want it to be. I can fix every problem you ever had. All you need to do is believe me that I did. And just believe that it happened.
Well, I heard an older guy before the election say, like, well, it looks like I'm gonna have to vote for that idiot. into office, and then someone said like, which idiot? He's like, Trump.
Right.
Like, I have no choice.
No one
It's
thought
either that
Hillary's
or-
an idiot.
Yeah.
If you thought Hillary was stupid, then you're even worse than the average Trump
Yeah.
fan. They thought she was an evil genius who was running a child sex ring because they needed to make up things to excuse their cult-like worship of this snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
They just wanted a loud asshole to be entertaining for them, and they didn't care about the future. And because they wanted him to punish us all for the world not being exactly what they wanted it to be.
So, like, your dad knows that obviously that you didn't vote
Yeah.
for Trump. So, like, how does that like work? Like, do you guys talk about it, or like
No.
you
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 just
told
try
your dad
to?
that you're a globalist.
Yeah, of course. I am a globalist. I think I believe in the Star Trek future. We need a one world government with a mandatory income that everyone gets. That's the only way we'll ever survive. But no, I mean he just doesn't like he just asks us not to talk about it. But of course he asks us not to talk like in family events. He'll want us to not talk about it with each other, not to him. And we're all just like, you don't get to tell us what to not talk about. But
Right.
it's like it's one of those things where like under Bush. Oh, he would love to defend it. He would always just be like, oh, we need to go to Iraq and we need to stop those people and stuff. But now it's like at least he recognizes he does not have a leg to stand on with this argument and he's going to look stupid. So he just kind of slinks away because I think that's what everyone who defends Trump, except the really delusional people, most of them are just ashamed but have way too much pride to admit it.
How does he like reconcile that he has so many like alt-right, like neo-Nazis supporting him with like Steve Bannon and
You need a tough guy to get things done. Hey, I don't think they hate Jews. You know what it is?
I think he just loves TV and like media so much. He's like, oh, here's an opportunity for a new audience, and like these people who supported him, as awful as they are, they're like any opportunity to have people who like him is like.
No, but I mean
appealing
his
to him.
dad, because
Oh, his dad, yeah.
I mean your father is Jewish. I'm
Right,
assuming.
right.
Yeah, but Trump. The answer is obvious. It's his daughter married a Jew. Obviously, here's what it is. There are two kinds of Jews in this world. There are Jews who think never again means never again let a dictator wipe out a class of people, and there are people who think never again means never let a dictator wipe out the Jews. My dad is on that side.
Right.
He's afraid of what's going to happen to the Jews, whereas I think most Jews care about not letting any Holocaust happen. That's what it is. They don't care what happens to anyone but them. And Trump cozies to Jews. He cozies to my people because we have become a very popular target of evangelicals by just saying like, hey, man, I know we're not the same religion, but we both want to be authoritarians, right? We both want a sky daddy to punish everyone who's too liberal for your tastes, right?
But he also curries favor with the alt-right and the
But
neo-Nazis.
they aren't
and-
anti-Jewish right now. The people that
Well,
he's
Steve
with...
Bannon was
They are.
totally anti-Jewish.
But he lies. Yeah,
Like-
but he believes the lies that he's not.
So you're saying that their official statement is that they're not anti-Jewish, but
Yeah.
they really are.
Yeah. No, he believes that Trump. He goes, well, why would Trump have Jared Kushner there if he hates Jews so much? And I'm like, Sebastian Gorka literally has a V in his middle name to identify himself as part of the Hungarian Nazi Party. And my dad's like, oh, I like him. He's funny. It's like,
Jesus.
yeah, he just wants a bunch
Is
of...
that how bad comedy is right now? People are looking to Sebastian Gorka.
Well, my dad's
to get a laugh.
favorite comedy, I asked him once, Lethal Weapon.
Okay.
If that explains what's
comedy?
wrong with my father. No, Sebastian Gorka, like, was just an example of, oh, I like him. And it's like, that's what it is. Like, no. And what it really shows is that, like, oh, you don't give a you would love Nazis if it was anyone but Jews
Yeah,
that
see,
they were
like,
going after.
I can't
And
even wrap my head around this because, like, I literally have not a single family member.
all Orthodox Jews love Trump. All conservative Jews love Trump because he's doing what they want. And by hiring a few Jews, it tells them, well, obviously we're fine. Obviously, hey, you got to work with some nasty people sometimes to get things done, and that's what they see as Steve Bannon. And I said, well, what about the fact that Steve Bannon didn't want his children going to school with Jews? He's like, well, Steve's not the president, and he's not even in the White House anymore. They'll excuse anything because there are bad people in every group, in every religion. There are black Trump supporters, as fucking crazy as that sounds.
Not in my family, but
And good for your family. But I mean, they're fairly light, but they're there. You've seen that lunatic with his Blacks for Trump sign behind every one of these rallies, even though we found out that Blacks for Trump is a fucking Russian propaganda site. Was made up by Russia to confuse people. They proved that. They found the origin of that website, and the guy's still there with his fucking sign.
Yeah, but I don't even understand how people don't know that. Like, I don't have one person in my family that voted for Trump, but I also don't know any black people that voted for Trump.
Look at how many people came here from Mexico and voted for Trump. And then their fucking family got deported. And they acted like, how did this happen? You found out about him running for president by calling you a rapist.
Right. Well, he obviously meant the bad Mexicans.
I'll tell you what it is. You know what? We can explain everything about why black people, the black people who like Trump, why Mexicans like Trump, by looking at Kanye. You know what it really is? Kanye.
Mental illness.
Well, Kanye's mentally ill. But if you look past the mental illness of like what's the impetus of it, it's that I think a lot of times your desire to just be a loudmouth asshole matters more to you than your people. That's what happened with Kanye. He talks about Trump's dragon energy and be like, yeah, you care more about being a loudmouth and a dick than you care about every other black person in America, is what I see with Kanye.
I think for some people, because Trump is rich, that they see him as being like an aspirational and that they voted aspirationally, like, oh, well, like I want to be like a billionaire too, so I'm going to vote for a billionaire. I think that
pure authoritarianism.
Yeah. I think that some people, they attach themselves to him because they think he's rich, and that there is a fraction of people that find virtue in wealth, and that they think that if you're a billionaire, you must be a good person because bad people are poor.
This guy's a businessman like me.
Yeah.
I'm involved in a few pyramid schemes.
Right.
Yeah.
They
like,
see a
guy
I'm selling vitamins out of my garage.
Well, they see someone this dumb who quote unquote made it, and they say, well, I guess that means that I can make it despite not being able to write a single tweet without grammatical mistakes.
Right.
No, a lot of people see him as protection against the consequences of the world. And they think that he's just gonna, they're so simplistic about their understanding of government, they think that someone who yells louder will get more done.
Right.
Which is terrifying. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
No, they don't, Dave. But we probably should wrap this up.
God damn it.
I know. But before we go, everyone should just go around and plug, like what projects they're working on, social media. Start with you, JP.
Sweet. At JP_McDade on Twitter. I have a weekly show if you're in the New York area at Lucky Jack's on the Lower East Side every Wednesday, 9 o'clock. It's
You do?
always free. I do.
No kid, I was there last night.
What? Sweet. At the same venue?
Yeah, at Lucky Jack's, yeah.
Great room, right?
Oh, yeah, that's
Love
awesome.
that place. But yeah, come check us out. Always free. Always great lineups. It's Too Many Cooks NYC on all the social media platforms.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm Dave Cyrus, Cyrus on everything. I'll be September 14th at Philly Comedy Club, 26th at Empire Casino somehow. And September 12th at Bingo Ale something. Yeah.
You have a gambling problem.
Yeah, I guess I do. Thanks, guys. September 7th at the Huron? I don't know.
Huron.
I guess. God, what the hell did I write down? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marissa.
You can follow me on Twitter at Marissa Smith. You can follow this show on Twitter at The Blamestorm. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on iTunes. Also, check out my other podcast, Big Talk and Brewskis, and you can follow that on Twitter at Big Talk and Brew. On July the 31st, I'll be at Broadway Comedy Club, 10 o'clock, for Fashionably Funny.
That passed. That's in 11 months from
August
now.
31st. Sorry.
Very good.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Take care of yourselves, guys. We'll
Thank you.
see you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much, JP.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, that was fun.